Bess of Hardwick. Elizabeth Hardwick was the daughter of John Hardwick of Derbyshire and his wife Elizabeth Leake. Whilst her exact birth date is unknown, it is thought to be between 1521 and 1527. Little is known of Bess's early life. She appears to have been betrothed to her first husband during the 1530s. It is thought that, but it is hard to prove, aged 12 she moved to the London household of Anne Gainsford, Lady Zouche of Codnor Castle in Derbyshire, where she would have become familiar with city life and the Tudor court. In 1543, Bess married the 13-year-old Robert Barley, or Barlow, who was the heir to a neighbouring estate. Robert died only a year later, and after a legal dispute, Bess was awarded the Barley estate and compensation, albeit several years after Robert's death. On the 20th of August 1547, Bess married the twice-widowed Treasurer of the King's Chamber, Sir William Cavendish, and she became Lady Cavendish. It is said the wedding took place at 2 o'clock in the morning at the home of the Grey family, Bradgate Park in Leicestershire, where it is thought she may once have served. Sir William was more than twice Bess's age and already had 2 daughters. They had 8 children together, 2 of whom died in infancy. He had made his fortune as a result of the dissolution of the monasteries, in which he acted as an official and was able to keep the best properties for himself. Being a man of property, and possibly acting on Bess's advice, Sir William sold his lands in the south of England and bought the Chatsworth estates in her home county of Derbyshire. But Sir William Cavendish died on the 25th of October 1557, leaving Bess widowed a second time and deep in debt to the crown. She married a third time in 1559, this time to Sir William Senlow. Her new husband was Captain of the Guard to Elizabeth I and Chief Butler of England. He managed to convince the Queen to reduce Bess's debt and paid what was left of it back in full. He owned large West Country estates in Gloucestershire and Somerset, and his principal residence was at Sutton Court in Stowey. He died in suspicious circumstances in 1564 or 65. Some say he was poisoned by his younger brother. He left everything to Bess, who, in addition to her own 6 surviving children, was now responsible for his 2 daughters from his first marriage. But his death left her one of the wealthiest women in England. Her annual income was calculated to amount to £60,000. That's the equivalent to £19 million today. Furthermore, she was a lady of the bedchamber, with daily access to the Queen, whose favour she enjoyed. Despite being courted by several suitors, Bess did not remarry until 1568, when she married for the 4th time to become the Countess of Shrewsbury. Her new husband, John Talbot, 6th Earl of Shrewsbury, was one of the premier aristocrats of the realm, and the father of 7 children by his first marriage. Indeed, 2 of his children were married to 2 of hers in a double ceremony in February of 1568. Bess's daughter, Mary Cavendish, aged 12, was given in marriage to Shrewsbury's eldest son Gilbert, aged 16, whilst Bess's son, Sir Henry Cavendish, aged 18, married Shrewsbury's daughter, Lady Grace Talbot, aged 8. In the year before Bess and the Earl of Shrewsbury were married, a political disturbance arose in Scotland which would profoundly affect their lives. Rebel Scottish lords rose up against Mary, Queen of Scots, imprisoned her, and forced her to abdicate in favour of her 1-year-old infant son, James. In May of 1568, Mary escaped captivity in Scotland and fled south towards England, seeking the protection of her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. However, the English authorities were not sure how to receive her, and on the 18th of May she was taken into protective custody at Carlisle Castle by local officials. Queen Elizabeth felt obliged to host and protect Mary, her cousin, against the rebellious Scottish lords. Due to Mary's persistent claim to the English throne, Elizabeth also regarded her as a threat, and had her moved to Bolton Castle in Yorkshire, and then put her into the custody of the Earl of Shrewsbury and his wife, Bess. Elizabeth's instruction to Bess and her husband amounted to little more than Mary's house arrest. Mary reached her new residence, Tutbury Castle, in 1569, in the month of February. She was 26 years old, and she remained in custody with them for 15 years. Elizabeth shifted the cost of the imprisonment to Shrewsbury. Mary's presence in their home, as well as the financial costs and political tensions, may well have contributed to the rift between Shrewsbury and Bess, which would lead eventually to the breakup of their marriage. Queen Mary lived at one or another of their many houses in the Midlands: Tutbury, Wingfield Manor, Chatsworth House and Sheffield Manor. And as a result of this, Bess and Mary spent much time together, and they enjoyed embroidering and working on textile projects. In fact, all of Mary's later work became part of Bess's historical collection at Hardwick Hall. Bess joined Mary at Chatsworth for extended periods, between 1569 to 1571, during which time they worked together on the Oxborough hangings. It was not until Mary was removed to another keeper that she got into the trouble that would ultimately lead to her execution. Shrewsbury and Bess parted ways for good, and on his death in 1590, Bess became Dowager Countess of Shrewsbury. She lived mostly at Hardwick, where she built the new mansion of Hardwick Hall, which inspired the rhyme, "Hardwick Hall, more glass than wall," because of the sheer number and size of its windows. She was indeed one of the greatest builders of her time, with Hardwick, Chatsworth House and Oldcoats. Bess of Hardwick died at 5 p.m. on the 13th of February 1608, aged 81. At the time of her death, she remained one of the richest and most powerful women in the kingdom. On the 16th of February, her body was placed in a vault in All Saints' Church, Derbyshire, which is now Derby Cathedral, where she remains to this very day.